Hi, this is Beth Redmond Walsh with Cambridge Community Television. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be speaking with two artists. The first one's name is Alana Kripchen. She's a sculptor and a jewelry maker who hopes to, at one point in her career, make larger pieces of artwork that involve movement of parts of the pieces. And also we have Melissa Glick. She is also an artist who does 3D as well as 2D artwork, and she uses repurposed computer parts to make her pieces. She's also an art historian as well as a teacher. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and speak with our artists. Thanks for joining us.
Hi everyone, my name is Alana Kripchen. I live in Somerville, and I have been an artist and jeweler now for close to 20 some odd years. And I started out thinking about it as miniature sculpture because I've always loved sculpture. It's one piece of something that I've always loved. And so I think about the jewelry as just being sculpture that you can also wear. So for example, you have pieces like this one, where you can imagine this is almost like a maquette for a huge sculpture. And so that's kind of how I've always thought of the jewelry. But unlike sculpture, jewelry is a lot easier to store and to sell and to market. So that's kind of how I ended up making what I call sculpture to wear. I started thinking, you know what, I should just make some sculpture because that's actually what I really like doing. So I moved on and started making some pieces like these over here that are kinetic sculpture. So you can probably see there are some similarities to what I have in jewelry, but I just started going bigger. And someday my goal is to have this and have it be even bigger. So I see this as sort of the middle ground between the small scale sculpture to wear that I was called the jewelry and something really big. And I also started making mobiles, and it occurred to me as I was making the mobiles that I could combine the sculpture to wear and the sculpture not to wear. So if you see with this one, for example, it's a mobile that you hang, and there are earrings that are part of the mobile. And so you take them out and wear them, and then when you're not wearing them, they're part of the sculpture. So these are Mobius strip necklaces. These are actually one of the pieces that I've been making for the longest. I started this design probably 10 or 15 years ago, and I've continued to make them because they tend to be popular. A Mobius strip is a mathematical concept of a one-sided object. Twist it once and then reconnect the edges. You can follow your finger along it and come back to where you started, making it technically one-sided, so it's often used as a symbol for infinity, which I think is one of the reasons that it's a popular item for people. In addition to being aesthetically pleasing, it also has a symbolism of this infinity. And then what I do is solder a post on it and then glue a half-drilled stone on the post. So you'll see it looks sort of like it's just floating in there, but it's actually quite secure the way I have it set. It's interesting.
Yeah,
Yes.
What kind of metal is that?
This is titanium. So what I'm doing with titanium is something called anodizing, which is where I'm using electricity to change the surface color of the metal. And you get different surface colors depending on the amount of electricity. And I'm running it through water, and you just add borax to the water. So there's no chemicals involved. So with this one, you can see I dipped part of it to get this color, and then I used a brush which has the electricity run through it to get this more painterly aspect on the piece. So this is more like just a little piece of artwork, and then you see in something like this, it's that same process in the background. That's where this sort of mountain comes from in the piece. And then the background is sterling silver, so I sort of made a case for it. And then you have that titanium, and then I've put clear resin over the entire thing, which holds it in place and gives it that glossy finish. So with this one, the outside is bronze, and the background is that same titanium I was describing where I've anodized it to give it that sort of sky look. And then this is something called reticulation silver, which is like sterling silver. It just has a slightly higher copper content. And when you heat it, the copper bubbles to the surface. So that's where all that texture comes from. And then I've added a small amount of blue resin in here, which gives it that sort of waterfall look.
I call my work Hacker Creations because I take apart old computers and technology and I look for the most interesting and beautiful parts inside, and then I use it in a sort of three-dimensional collage. I take apart all kinds of old computers, and the older the computer, the bigger the parts. So this is all sort of obsolete equipment or parts. And there's a limited amount of these things because they don't make them anymore. So that's kind of interesting that, you know, my work sort of documents technology. For example, these beautiful shiny discs are hard drives. The big ones are from laptops, and the little ones are the big ones are for PCs, and the little ones are from laptops. But they don't make these. They don't use these anymore. They've gone past that technology. Now a hard drive kind of looks like this. You see? So a hard drive now looks like that. You know, there are no moving parts. They call it solid state. I'm not an engineer, but my father was an engineer at Raytheon. He worked there from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and he loved to collect anything they threw out, he brought home, and he had quite a collection in our basement. And I remember him bringing home things like vacuum tubes, and he also brought home these are resistors, and as a child I liked these because they reminded me of Tootsie Roll. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. So these reminded me of Tootsie Rolls, and they came in different colors.
It was like candy almost.
Yeah. But
what is this?
well, that's just a circuit board that was made that was never used. See, all the purple circuit boards here were made by a company in Portland, Oregon called Osh Park, and they're very generous because when they print circuit boards for engineers and when people order them, sometimes there's leftover board and they donate that to me. So I actually went on their website and picked out the shapes that I liked, and those are open source designs, and they donate those to me. But
That's great. So that basically you're recycling all these things, giving them a new use and a new life, and also a sense of like some history with technology.
yeah.
Cool.
Yep. A lot of engineers love to look at my work and try and, identify the parts, which I don't encourage, because I want them to realize that they're no longer those items. I have a background in art history and art education, and I love abstract geometric shapes and bright colors, and sometimes my work is sort of about certain artists, like this is Mondrian, and I actually altered the Mondrian image. I added a lot more color here, and then I chose pieces that, red and blue and white in the pieces, but I made it at an angle specifically because Mondrian stuff is so perpendicular, so my stuff is wiggly and more, so it's a contrast. Artist named Jaakko Egem, and he was a kinetic artist, and he plays a lot with color, and I took like a little element of his painting and just repeated it and manipulated it in Photoshop, and then found parts that I felt played well with it, sort of like here, grids. So when you look through a grid and you see the colors, it It's sort of an exciting, it's stimulating. I like, you know, this part, like when the light hits it, you'll see rainbow colors. And like this is a very unusual color here. It's a beautiful like teal color. You know, most circuit boards are green. So whenever I find a piece that is not green, it's exciting. Like this one, this is baby blue, and I've never seen another baby blue circuit board before. Some of them have moving parts, like fans. And yeah, it's really a conversation between the two-dimensional pattern and the three-dimensional objects. So I really love Louise Nevelson's artwork because she was using found furniture. Her work have beautiful patterns and repetition, and some of the parts are I just find them so beautiful, like horizontal, you know, parallel lines, repetition of pattern, avatar.
Oh, yes.
This piece is cool because it's, I was just learning how to use a laser cutter, so I cut the hearts on the laser cutter and glued the circuit board on the back. So this piece has Alan Turing, who is like the grandfather of all computer security because he was able to solve an encryption and helped, you know, win the Second World War. Here's Beth modeling a hacker hat. It's made with all kinds of white plastic parts. You know, I'm very nearsighted, so I can see very small things, and I like breaking things down to their tiny bit. Yep, these are all hard drives. These are kind of a steampunky combination, technology, steampunk, cyberpunk, because this is like that's a very old piece, and there's some clock. It's from a like grandfather clock, and we'll put a lot of clock faces on some of these. Yep. So I make pins with all kinds of Mother's Day. So to wrap up, okay, so wrapping up, people are always asking me if I want their computers, but I really have more than enough materials that I have to get through before I can accept any more computers. So if you're looking to get rid of your old computers, you can always take them to the DPW. So having this pop-up has been a wonderful experience, but unfortunately it ends on June 5th. So if you missed it, you can always visit our websites. Mine is hackercreations.com.
And AlanaKrepshinSculpture.com.